Okay, so for this stream, we're going to focus on the indices, specifically the S&P, the Nasdaq, and the Dow. We're going to go ahead and start with the S&P 500 and focus on the higher time frame here, because right now the lower time frame, there's a lot of different counts that we can observe, and I'll jump into this too once we look at the futures chart for the S&P. But realistically, we have two counts, and it's either up or down, bullish or bearish to be precise. We do have a bearish bias still in the higher time frame, so we're going to look at the bearish count first. Now, basically, we have this as an A, B into a C. Whether this is a W for a combo or an A for flat. It depends on how high this bounces. If it bounces up to the 0.9, we'll look for a regular flat potentially. If it expands beyond this 4,200, 4,800 high, we'll look for a potential flat. But as of right now, in the middle, there's basically two ways I can kind of see this. And it all depends on where your W pivot is ending. Either having your W pivot end right here, or having your W pivot end right here. Now, on the medium time frame, we're looking at this whole price leg up here, this whole price leg as a corrective leg up. It's definitely very corrective, and we're looking at it as a three-way structure like this. Now, the Y is getting a little extended in time, which is a little bit worrisome. So there's a few things we can do to counteract that, meaning this may not be the right structure that we're observing, which it's even different from this one as well. So on both these counts, we're expecting a B pivot, but what if we are still working on the X wave? So what I mean by this is because this Y leg right here is getting very extended in time in comparison to this W leg right here, it just doesn't seem very probable. Even right here, if we have this as a W leg, this has a little bit more similar relationship right there. But if this X wave isn't done, we could be looking at something like this: W, X into Y. And that would basically push us up to this territory, this flat territory that we're observing up here. So it just depends on how this leg forms out right here. But I can see this X leg forming as another three-wave structure, meaning we get this push down right here like that. Whether we take this low or we don't, meaning it's potentially some type of running corrective variation, or it's an expanding flat like this. It's way too early to say for sure. We'll just have to monitor it. But this is something that I'm keeping in the back of my mind right now, because once again, this X wave, this minor X wave, potentially it could possibly even still be completing like we're discussing right now, as opposed to having the pivot right here or the pivot right here. So if this continues to correct in time and just continues to correct sideways, we're probably going to be looking at this count, because once again, this Y leg would have been taking way too long in time. So confirmation on this count is really more time distortion and more correction sideways. Confirmations on these counts, it's difficult to say. Like I said, this Y leg is getting very extended in time, so there's even potential we even have a very shallow B wave coming up here, which we'll discuss shortly. I think this is kind of forcing the count though, because when you look at all of our minute degrees, wave Bs, they've had some pretty significant bounces. This was a pretty significant retrace right here. This one was a pretty significant retrace. That was a pretty significant retrace. it'd be very unorthodox to have the minute B be very shallow. It's not impossible. It's just unorthodox. Um, I do expect somewhat of more of a push down. If we are not bearish and we're looking for a bullish outcome, we're going to focus on potentially a W, X, Y, X, Z. And that was a pivot for the wave 4. Or once again, you could still even count this down as a B into a C. You would just have to upgrade your degrees right here. The only thing that you should be worried about, like we discussed in last stream, is that if you are under the notion that this was the bottom and that was the pivots, and we're not seeing that price at least before we take out this high, then you really should just be focusing on this leg right here, this leg forming up, which is kind of what we would discuss last time as well. There's really only one way I can see this. I know last time we discussed 2 different ways, but the previous count that we're observing, it's just a little too forced, and it really demands upward pressure immediately because of these 1-2s, 1-2s. I think it's better structure to see it like this. And once again, it is rare to have a running flat in a wave 2, but given the structure of this leg right here, I can really only see it as a running flat. Now we're working on the second 1-2. I don't think it's done yet. I still think we have one more push down. So this is either a W, X, and a Y, depending on how this comes down. If it comes down like that, but if it comes down like this, it's going to be expanding flat, an A into B into a C. So it just depends on how it comes down. Either as a 5-wave move, or if it just comes down as a 3-wave move, like that. The more that this is unfolding, the more it becomes probable because it's building a base. It's got a very clear case of building a base right here is what it's trying to do, and that's what a 1-2-1-2 does. I just once again still can't just flip to a bullish bias yet. I still need a little bit more strength, and I really need to see it to push up impulsively to have some sort of bullish bias here. So we're gonna still monitor this count, keep it on the back burner, but we're still going to really be monitoring this structure up as a WXY, either like this, or once again, this W or this X wave right here is not done yet, like such. And this is where things get complicated because it's a complex correction. You never know when it's over until it's over, and it can just continue to correct and correct, just like how we're seeing right here. Like I said, it could potentially even drop down like this. So got to be careful, especially with these corrective waves, these large B and large X waves. They can really correct continuously. Now, looking at the futures markets, just like I hinted earlier, looking at the shorter time frame, there's a lot of different permutations we can see, a lot of different corrections we could count. So basically, it just means have clear validations when it comes to price and time, and really don't be greedy, meaning don't have a lot of runners, because like I said, it's right now I can count 4 different ways for this B wave that we're experiencing right now. The first way is that we still have yet to complete this B wave. Like I said, if we completed some type of running variation up here, it'd be a very shallow B wave. It's not impossible, it just doesn't seem very likely. So in this scenario, we're looking at this as a flat pattern right here. Expanded flat to be precise. At least to take out this low right here. Potentially taking out this low. But the only clear validation on this, once again, is basically just breaking this low right here and seeing a clear 5-wave structure. If we see a clear 5-way structure like this and we break these lows, we're going to be looking at discount. Now the running variation, there's potential that this could even be a running triangle, a running contracting triangle. Still got to move up for an A wave. Then we correct into a triangle. Then we push up for the C wave. Like I said, it's not impossible. I just don't, and it honestly has somewhat of a good structure to it, a good look right now at least. But projecting a running contracting triangle, it's a little out there. It's not impossible. Like I said, we got to be aware of all the variations. So really, the only confirmation on this would be breaking these highs, and we got to do it impulsively. And then if we have a clear three-way pullback, I would be monitoring this count. I would be monitoring this. Next, there's potential that this is a more complex wave B, meaning this is still an A, B, C for W. This is an A, B, C for an X. And then this is an A, B, C for Y. So the difference between this count and this count is a manner of how we come down and with the strength we come down. With this one, we're looking for clear 5 waves down, and we're looking for it to push down hard. With this, it's a little more shallow, meaning we're looking for a shallower push down, but also the manner in which we're coming down, we're looking for a 3-wave move as opposed to a 5-wave move. So if we basically take these lows, come down in a clear 5 waves, and bounce back up with a market structure shift, we'll be monitoring this count. Lastly, is a same thing as the running triangle, but this is saying that the running correction is already over, meaning we completed a running flat where this was a B, and an impulse down for a C wave. And it has a very good look for a running flat. The time relationship with A and C is very nice. It's almost perfect here. So right into our sweet spot. It's almost 1-to-1 right there, 1-to-1 with A. So I could definitely see this as being completed. It definitely has a right internal structure too, meaning we have a nice correction down, a clear 3-wave correction up, and we can get a clear 5 waves down as well. So really, I don't think I've ever seen a running flat look so good, to be honest. So this is why I do have this here. The only difference between this count and the other counts is the manner of how we come up. This looks like a 1 right here. This looks like a pushback for a 2. We pushed up for a 3. Now I want to see a pullback for a 4, push up for a 5, and then a 3-wave correction. So all these counts, they give us potential direction, and they all unfold a little bit differently. And that's kind of how the way that we should look at Elliott wave is there really is no true count out there, because price can do anything. It can literally do anything. It's a matter of expecting how it unfolds and managing those expectations, which we talk about all the time, which is what we're doing right here. Once we see price unfold more, we're going to manage these expectations and reference these counts to see which one's more probable in that time period. So it's not impossible with all this correction going on. It is being a little bit difficult. And once again, we're in a complex B wave or an X wave. And these are the waves that get the most complex, personally, in my opinion. B and X waves, they can be the most complex out there. So that's what I have for ES. Now I'm going to take a look at the Dow because I actually like the look of the Dow more, and I've been looking at it a little bit differently as well. The only asset that's really giving me some trouble is really Nasdaq, to be honest. So we'll save that one for last for me. But for the Dow, we've been monitoring this count right here. And we discussed early on, or a few streams back, how we just really did not like this at all because of already being in a 1-2, 1-2. And the way that these are unfolding, this 2 is pretty much almost bigger than this 2 right here. So it just seems a little bit improbable, especially if we're only going to be completing a intermediate Y wave. If we were completing more of a primary or cycle degree, that's when I would allow a child degree to be larger than its parent degree. But that's that's not even the case here because, like I said, we're working on an intermediate degree. So truly looking at this, I think it's force, which we have been hinting at, and I'm just going to go ahead and get rid of it because it doesn't seem very probable, doesn't seem like the right count at this time, and it'd be very out of sync with the markets, with the ES and the Nasdaq, which is very unlikely. So it leads us to be looking at either a bullish case, like we have been looking at, where we impulsed up for a 1, clear 5 waves up off a low, very impulsive leg, and we're correcting down. Either this is done as an A, B, C, and we actually impulsed up for a 1, we're correcting down for a 2, and we move up, or this is still correcting down like this, building a base. It would have some divergence growing too, but the ES, we expect it to come down for its second 2, where it makes a higher low. Potentially this comes down and makes it a lower low as well. So I mean, there could be some type of divergence there forming. I think it's way too early to kind of discuss that because once again, we're talking about higher degree pivots here. So more than anything, we're theorizing more than projecting. But lastly, since, like I said, we have a bearish bias overall. So the only thing that I can see if we're looking bearish is basically to adopt what I'm seeing on the ES, which is something like this. We've got A, B, C. And I do like this look. This diagonal looks a lot more cleaner than it does on the ES. And also the C leg, it's got a very clean 5 waves down. So I like this look. It looks very good. Now it's a matter of thinking that this is either W, meaning we have an A, B, C for an X, WXY. If we expand beyond this high right here, this could just be an A, B, C for a B wave of a flat when we go into the flat territory right here. It just depends on how high we bounce up. It's difficult because when I was looking at this, we've already bounced up already so high for this wave 1, meaning if we begin to push up, this is the route I see right here, where we're just going to do a regular impulse. If we push up, but in a 3-wave manner like this, and we push back down, I could actually see this almost forming as a ending diagonal. We build a large base right here, and we push up for 3 and a 4 and a 5. The only issue with this is that we've got a impulse right here, and for an ending diagonal, it really has to be 3-wave moves. That's what it has to be. So it's getting a little tricky right here with the Dow, but I can see basically two ways up right here. And if we actually take this route right here and push up, this could actually give us the strength to push up here like this into the flat territory. If we take this route and push down, I would say we probably don't have the strength to push up there. We would probably push up, push down, and push up. The only issue with this is that now we're not in no man's land, but now it's basically a coin toss because we're pinging in the 0.9. So this could still be a regular flat. Now if we
Oh,
do happen to hit this 0.9 and reject off of it, we really have to monitor how it comes down, because either it's going to come down in a 5-wave impulse for a flat, or it's going to come by in a 3-wave corrective move for a combo, a Y wave. So that's when things get tricky, and that's always what happens when it clearly hits the point 0.9 and rejects off of it. It's all about managing the expectations of the structure, either 3-wave move or an impulsive move down. So we'll continue to monitor this. In the short term, it's really about monitoring this move right here. If it comes up as a as clear 3-wave moves, we're probably going to expect that push down. If it really comes up impulsively and pulls back like that, we're probably going to look for this wave 3. Now Nasdaq's been giving me some trouble. And it's really just grinding up right now in a unorthodox manner. It's here. Let's just go ahead and take a look at it. So the first way I'm looking at this is kind of the same thing as ES and the Dow. It doesn't look as clean though as a B, C. Still valid, but the other way we could view this is a W, X, Y, X, Z. Almost a moot point, because no matter what, we understand that this is a corrected move down and this is the end of the pivot. Whether it be the end of a pivot for a W or an A, we need a little more information. Just like with the Dow and the ES, it could be a W, it could be an A right here. Depends on how high it bounces up, either to the flat territory for B wave or for the X territory for WXY. Just depends if it takes this high right here, essentially. Now, looking at this middle structure, like I said, it's been very difficult because I'd say because of this shallow correction right here, if it kind of came down more like this and then pushed up, it would have a way better structure and look, and we could probably analyze a little bit more. But the way the shallow retraces and the grind up is making it a little bit difficult to count. So there's basically 2 ways that I can count it up, and I don't like both of them. This one is saying that we still have to have a B retrace, a C extension for a Y expansion. This kind of falls in line with one of our ES counts, so this is why I'm monitoring this. The only thing I don't like about it is what we alluded to earlier with ES, is the distortion in time with the W wave. So this W wave, let's see, October to February, about 4 months. And then this Y wave, let's see, March, potentially September. I mean, it's 6 months. It's a lot longer in time. It just doesn't seem, usually doesn't have the right structure, the right look to it. And that's something that's a red flag to you, meaning that maybe this isn't the right structure. It's valid, and that's what I always fall back to. If it's valid, we're going to monitor it. But since it doesn't have the right structure, I'm thinking it could even be almost done like as is right now, which this has a lot better structure to it. And this is one of those cases where we have a quick X, a quick break of structure, and then we push up again. So the similarities in time right here is beautiful. It looks very nice, and internally we pretty much can get this to finish, which we'll take a look at the futures here very shortly. But just like with ES, this Y wave is getting a little extended in time. And when that happens, to me, that's signaling that we're getting to the point of exhaustion. Because when it comes to Elliott wave theory, and at the heart of Elliott wave theory, it's fractal. time is a very important thing of it too. And once things get extended in time, it's a big red flag. That's the move and the pivot is approaching here, which is something that I'm seeing right here. So if we take a look at the futures markets and we take a look at this internal subway structure, we can get it to end. I just don't like it because we would have to force its ending on the ES or once again expect some type of divergence, just like how we were discussing with the Dow. But when I look at the futures market here, like I said, when we're looking at this ABC right here, this ABC for this potential Y wave, I can truly get it completed. I mean, albeit I expect one more pullback and one more push up to get a nice clean impulse up. Nothing's perfect, but this is what I would like to see. But what I'm trying to explain is that this is a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Clear impulse for an A. Then we have A, B, C. A clear 3A pullback for a B. Then looking at the swing structure, we have a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A nice clean impulse structure unfolding for a C wave. Like I said, internally it looks complete. It really does. The only thing that really irks me a little bit is the subwave structure of this wave 3. It's not clean. You have to force it really as a 1 into a 2 or a 1 into a 2, 3, 4, 5. It's got a very unorthodox look to it. But when we're looking at the swing structure, it's got a nice swing structure to it. The only thing I don't like about this, once again, is that we would be completing the pivot right here already for Nasdaq, and we would already be pushing down for the 1 into a 2, down for the 3, 4, 5. So still going to kind of stick away from Nasdaq and still really focus on the ES, to be honest. Maybe even take a look at the Dow, depending on how that pullback we get, either it's a 3A pullback or not, and maybe look at the Dow. But truthfully, I would really be monitoring more ES, then Dow, and then Nasdaq. I mean, although Nasdaq does run more and gives more opportunity to take more from the markets, it's just unclear for me. So I'm gonna kind of stick away from it. But that's pretty much what I got for the indices here. If anybody does have any questions, I'm gonna go ahead and see if anybody does have any questions here for the ES or Nasdaq or Dow. Take a look at the boardroom. Let's see. Oh wow, got some turnout here. Is anybody got any plans for today, Memorial Day? I'm about to go hang out with some buddies at the pool right after this for a nice barbecue. Is anybody in the US enjoying Memorial Day too? Any plans today? Nasdaq is really difficult right now. Tech stocks pushing too hard on the AI hype. Yeah, yeah, the AI train. That's what it is right now. Yeah, Nvidia. I mean, there's pretty much 5 assets that are carrying the U.S. economy right now. I mean, it's one of them is Microsoft. There's Apple, Tesla, Amazon, and then basically Nvidia. It's crazy how these 5 assets are literally holding up the economy right now. I think those 5 assets account for like 95% of the Nasdaq right now, or something like that. I read. I didn't confirm that, but I read that somewhere in a reputable source. It's just crazy. Where is NVIDIA? I could have sworn I did an account on NVIDIA. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it has been grinding up hard. What was it, Jim? Jim also said it was a loser, or like 130. I think it was somewhere around here. Right here, somewhere he said that. Yeah. Hiking day likely. Be careful, man. I don't know where you're at, but it's almost 100 degrees over here by me. If I had to put a stamp on which count is more likely to me, like I said, it's difficult because there's so many different permutations here to see. And I don't don't like putting my stamp of approval on this because running flats are so rare, but goddamn, does this look like a nice running flat right here? It really does. I'd really want to see this because it has more of a healthy look to it with when it comes to a three-way move and structure wise. It would cause issues with me due to how much longer it would take for the Y wave to form. So I would say I would lean more towards the complex B, meaning we still have a push down, take these lows, and then push up, or we're looking at one of the running variations. Whichever, it just depends on the manner of how price unfolds. If we get this five wave impulse, meaning we get that pullback, that push up, and then three wave move right here, I'll be looking at this. If we just continue to correct like this and really respect this channel, or even at least the 0.618, so there's 786 right here, I'll be looking at this. Where is my? So I would put more weights on the complex B, and then I would be looking at a running variation. Just depending upon how price unfolds, you'll have a better understanding of which running variation to look at. So, like I said, key takeaways is the most probable right now is the complex B, and then monitoring a potential running correction. And I can post these counts too, so it's easier to see in the Elliott wave counts after this. But other than that, if you guys ever have any questions, anything, or have any assets you want me to take a look at, I'll put on my list. I got a long list, but I always get back to you guys. You know I'm good for it. But otherwise, thanks for showing up and hope you guys enjoy the rest of your day. But thank you. Catch you later.